Welcome back to Issues of Faith. We are talking with Father Joseph Breen, the longtime pastor, now retired at St. Edward's Catholic Church. So we went to break. We were talking about how your church was really one of the most diverse, and certainly one of the most diverse in our area, probably in the whole country. I wanted to get at how did that transition, because it wasn't diverse when you started 31 years ago, then it became one of the most diverse at the time you left. Was it a rocky transition? Was there conflict? Was there tension? And how did you deal with it?
It was a challenge in the beginning. I was educated as a Vatican II priest under John the 23rd. He called the Ecumenical Council. It met for 4 years. I was in Rome at that time. I did my 4 years of theological studies. I got there in end of September 1958. Pope Pius, who had been Pope for 20-some odd years, died, and we had John the 23rd. Oh, he was a great man, and he is pretty much quite similar to Pope Francis. He seeks the truth and knows that no one never fully, you might say, has the fullness of truth. He knew that we had rules and regulations that were negative. It caused people to leave the church. He wanted to open the windows to get fresh air and make changes. And over a period of 4 years, what a blessing the Vatican Council was. It was being implemented for about 5 or 6 years. Then we had a different pope, and the Curia took over. The Roman Curia reversed everything of Vatican II for the most part. And we went back to the pre-1960s, where obedience, you don't question. The church has all the answers. And so we lost a lot of Catholics during that period. We lost many in 68 when the Pope repeated the teaching on birth control, where everybody was ready to accept the fact that birth control was a responsible part of parenthood. But unfortunately, and a number of people say due to the influence of the Roman Curia, he did not change it, and that was very painful throughout the world. Some sociologists would say we lost maybe a third of our Catholics. And
wow.
So now Pope Francis was elected for 2 reasons: to reform the Roman Curia, the cardinals in Rome that have controlled the church totally. They exercise the leadership not based upon respect, intelligence, and freedom, but on total obedience. Otherwise, you could lose your episcopacy as a bishop if you spoke out on any of those issues. And the second reason Pope Francis was elected was to implement Vatican II. He has quite a job, because many of those bishops were elected in a very conservative time. And I think it was common knowledge that a number of those men that were made bishops, they were made bishops not what they knew, what they had done, but mainly whom they knew. And so we got some bishops that never should have been made bishops. And they're the ones that really will be in opposition to the Pope Francis.
You certainly haven't been afraid to speak your mind and question authority within the church. And that's gotten you in trouble a little bit over the course of your career. Can you talk about that? You were reprimanded 3 times. How did that make you feel, and how did that happen?
I proclaimed the teaching of Vatican II. I mean, I believed in it. It made sense. Freedom of conscience. A greater understanding of what's right and wrong. The Roman Curia possessed an attitude that we have the fullness of truth, we don't need to debate it or discuss any changes. So unfortunately, the bishops were under that relationship of fear. They couldn't speak out on any of those issues. What issues? Married priests, ordination of women, contraception, infallibility. They weren't even able to speak out on those issues when they went to the meetings. I was trained in Rome, and in those seminars, the first 5 years, I went to places like Georgetown, Catholic University, Seton Hall.
So you weren't afraid to speak out on those issues?
Well, I became so, I mean, it was the truth. It was whatever was right. And they started changing them and stressing obedience. And back to previous to the 1960s, I understand why the 3 different bishops reprimanded me. They had no choice. They were in obedience to the Roman Curia, and if they didn't do what the Curia said, they could lose their episcopacy. I understood that. And so I really, in some ways, can't blame those bishops. But now Pope Francis is saying just what we Vatican II priests and most of the Catholic lay people. What's the largest Christian church in America? Roman Catholic. What's the second largest Christian group? 30 million fallen away Catholics. And in my years as a priest, I've never heard a bishop or cardinal or pope ever said anything about those 30 million. That's just in America. Pope Francis says that's a scandal. 30 million fallen away Catholics, we've done nothing for them. We're here to reconcile. We need to be a field hospital. We need to be out there bringing them back to the church. Jesus' main mission was what? To reconcile all of us to his Heavenly Father by his suffering and death.
So in our final moments, I mean, as someone who has not been afraid to speak out when he sees problems within the church, where do you see the church going? How optimistic are you about the future? Do you think it is a new day, or where do you see the church going?
Oh, I think we at Vatican II and so many of the Catholic lay people, they're educated. What has happened in the last 50 years. Vatican Council was over with in 1965. It's now 2015. You know, that's 50 years. And many of our Catholic laity are well educated, more so than many of the priests that are now being ordained.
Do you think there'll be some of these changes, you know, married priests, or some of these divisive issues?
Well, let's look at it this way. The past many years, the bishops of America have condemned homosexuality and same-sex marriage. What has happened in the last 2 years about, let's say, same-sex marriage? Instead of being a minority of Americans who support it, within 2 years, it's a great majority now that support it. And I think one reason it has changed is that the mothers and the fathers of these gay people, they come to recognize that this is my son. He's a wonderful son or a beautiful daughter, and just because they have a different orientation, I'm not going to deny them. I've come to know that they love me and take better care of me than my son who is not gay. So the parents are the ones who have really organized and have changed the attitude, and basically we're more Christian.
You feel like that's more, and we're evolving.
Definite. And Pope
Francis, that's going to be okay for the Catholic Church.
Definite. We have to, because if we don't get married priests, we're never going to have the quantity or the quality that we need to be a church with great leadership.
All right, it's fascinating. We could talk to you for a long time. Unfortunately, we're out of time, which I hate, but thank you for being with us. Thank you so much, Father
It's
Joseph
a real
Breen.
pleasure.
Father Joseph Breen. Thank you for watching Issues of Faith. Have a great day, everybody.